Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
Because the NCAA, they're the cleanest corporation known to man, are they not?
Well, they're not, but they're not. They want you to think that they are.
They're right up there with the IOC and FIFA.
Yeah,
in terms of corruption.
NCAA is third. That's right. The IOC and FIFA.
This is why this sports podcast is never going to get any credentials to any sporting event, because all we do is trash everybody.
It's so true.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
I'm Josh in Toronto.
And I'm Skip in Montreal.
In today's episode, the NHL playoff format,
observations from the NCAA tournament,
and a bracket challenge update.
But first, a Duke Blue Devils postmortem.
Okay, Skip, it's a Sunday evening. We haven't recorded on a Sunday evening since the NFL season ended, but
That's correct.
We wanted to wait till the Final Four in the NCAA basketball tournament was decided, and so it has now been decided. And of course, you can probably tell by the tone of my voice that I'm not that excited because Duke lost about an hour and 15 minutes ago. So a very disappointing game for me. I didn't watch it with you. I did have a friend over. He's not a Duke fan.
Not only did you not watch with me, I was texting you all kinds of stuff. You didn't answer any of them during the game.
Well, first of all, I was nervous about the game since the beginning. And secondly, I had a friend over, so I didn't want to look at my phone, really.
You're a good man, Josh. You're a good man.
But you didn't text me that much stuff. Only in the second half. In the first half, you were kind of quiet.
Well, because I noticed that you weren't answering, so I said, "Oh, I think maybe you were on." I thought maybe you were on Do Not Disturb, so you can concentrate on the game. I was thinking about all kinds of trying to get myself in your head, which is a scary place.
So I mean, it was frustrating because, and you're gonna probably agree with me, Duke could have won that game quite easily.
100%.
And the way they lost was just what you said. You've been saying all year. Duke can't hit their free throws, and they certainly can't hit their three-pointers, although they did hit some threes today, actually.
But also, the other thing that I told you a couple of games ago is that when we were watching together at my house, is that they're not a great half-court offense team because they rely on all these drives to the basket. So they usually get a whole bunch of points off of turnovers and fast breaks and then all those great dunks that you see by Barrett and Zion and whoever, right? Turnovers that lead to transition. And then if today was the opposite because Duke turned the ball over 17 times, which is ridiculous, and had exactly 0 fast break points. So this edition of the Duke team, they can't win against a team like Michigan State with that kind of stat line. And given all that, they still fell short just by, one basket.
I'm also, I agree with everything you just said, but I'm also disappointed because had Duke been in the Final Four, and I'm looking at the other 3 teams that are there.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, this was probably Duke's toughest game, this game today. Had they won today, I think they would have had, and it's stupid to say this, but I think they would have had an easy path to winning the championship because Texas Tech and Auburn and Virginia don't scare me.
Actually, I think Texas Tech is the best team left, if you ask me.
It's interesting. Duke has played all 3 of those teams, by the way.
Yeah. Well, we beat Virginia twice, right? Yeah. Virginia doesn't scare me if you're a Duke fan because, like I said, we beat them twice. Texas Tech does scare the crap out of me because I've watched them closely, and they play defense like nobody's business.
Right.
And they have this guy, Culver, who can hit shots from everywhere, and that big tall guy Owens, who's like a presence underneath. They're just very well rounded, and it's not a surprise because our guest on the March Madness preview, Neil, picked them to go pretty far. And I mean, I can give you a bracket challenge update. Neil won.
Congrats to Neil. So now you have to get him a prize.
Yeah. I mean, we can get into the bracket challenge later. We'll go into a little bit in more detail, but yeah, I think Texas Tech is definitely. I feel that Michigan State's probably going to be favored on reputation, but I think Texas Tech is going to win. And on the other side, Virginia-Auburn, I just couldn't care less. Virginia's probably going to win. Auburn's playing without one of their star players, who they still managed to beat Kentucky without today. Without, what's his name? Ikeke. Akiki. Yeah. So, I mean, Virginia is also a tough team. And, what you're going to find out, and what I've been telling the listeners for a couple of years already, is that you can't win with the one and dones. You just can't. And Duke almost did it this year. They went far, but it's too hard. It's too hard. They're just not experienced enough. Look at the game today. Look at the Michigan State team, right? They're all seniors and juniors, right? They're experienced. They're tournament tested. They draw on their experience, and not only that, they're experienced as men. You know, like they're things are just not phasing them as much. And in terms of their basketball IQ, you know, like they know how to run their offense. They know what to do in their defense. They know what to do in certain situations. That's why you saw Duke turn the ball over so many times today. They forced it into Zion Williamson. They should have known better, right? How many times did they try to force it to him on alley-oops or in the post, right? They should have known better. It wasn't working. You know, you got to go
Zion
something
himself
else.
made a few bad passes that caused turnovers.
They all did. Everybody turned the ball over today. And it's just unfortunate because, like, of course we wanted them to win. Right? I picked them in my bracket, but like I said, I picked them in my bracket every year. Who did you have in your bracket winning the whole thing?
I had Duke, yeah.
You had Duke.
Yeah.
I mean, we had them. I mean, I picked them every year because that's my team. I'm gonna pick I decided long ago that I wasn't gonna like have this conflict in my head when it came to like watching the games and rooting for my bracket. So I just always pick Duke, and that's who I'm going for in my bracket and in like life, you know, like and in real life. So whatever. I mean, there was so much great basketball this year. I don't want to go like out on like this sour note. Oh my God, Duke lost. There were some amazing games. Like
yeah, but let's
Purdue,
finish. I'm not
Purdue
done.
Really
I'm
gave
not,
us some...
I'm not finished talking about this game.
All right,
before we go to the other games.
Yeah, keep going. What do you got?
The
You
other
notes.
thing
I see you looking at notes.
The other thing that was frustrating about today's Duke game is that
Yeah.
So after Michigan State hits the 3-pointer and Duke's down by 2, and they have like 17 seconds or whatever it is, they bring the ball up and they don't
wasted so much time.
They don't do anything for like 10 seconds or more. And then finally, when they decide to make a move to the basket, it was like it wasn't even a good move. It was like it was such a low percentage attempt.
But that's what I told you. They really struggled in the half court, right? Their whole half court offense is drives to the basket, and you know, Barrett went to the basket. He got fouled. What was funny about when he got fouled is he missed the first shot. He tried to miss the second one on purpose.
I know, and it went in.
Oh my God! Like you can't even make that stuff up.
No, you can't.
No.
So by the way, So the first game on Saturday, Auburn versus Virginia, is the first game at 6:00.
Yes.
And the second game is Texas Tech, Michigan State. That's 40 minutes after the conclusion of the first game. So I don't really care who wins any of these games anymore.
Me too.
But if it's Virginia versus Texas Tech, the final score could be like 28 to like...
that's going to be low scoring.
To 20.
It's going to be low scoring actually no matter which of these teams make it.
Well, no, if it's Auburn against Michigan State, it's going to be a normal score.
But even Michigan State is not like the most high scoring team, you know.
I think they scored 80 on Friday though.
Their little point guard's pretty good, Cassius Winston, I have to admit. Duke knew it. They tried to deny him the ball, but he's so smart, right? Because he was able to pass out of it. He was able to make all the right plays. He drove to the basket on a very key play with under 2 minutes left, and they all collapsed around him because they didn't want him to get his shot off. And what did he do? He just ditched it to like, I forget who, for like a dunk, you know?
You know what else is frustrating about today's game?
Yeah.
Marquise Bolden is actually not a bad player, but he has terrible hands. Like he gets rebounds and he's so tall and he should be able to just drop it in there.
Yeah.
And he misses shots that anyway. You know.
I think that this is not going to be a popular opinion and you're maybe just going to think I'm out left field. I think Coach K was really outcoached today.
Mm-hmm.
Out of every timeout, Michigan State came out and executed their plays perfectly and went on a run. It happened like 3 times.
Yeah.
And out of every Duke timeout, they would come in and turn the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not preparing your team. And I also didn't like the way he used his bench because the guys were exhausted. The 5 guys that were on the floor, he basically used 6 guys today.
Right. Well, because
Jack White played like 2 minutes. O'Connell played like 3 minutes, and that was it. And it was the starting 5 and then Delorier and Bolden. And they were exhausted. And not only that, Barrett played every minute of today and last game, and so did Trey Jones. They never came out. So I just felt like by the end of the game they're just physically exhausted.
Anytime Jack White was on the floor and he took a shot, I knew it wasn't going in.
But he doesn't need to be on the floor to take a shot. He could just be on the floor to grab rebounds and play defense just to give other guys a break. Same thing with O'Connell. You know, it was so weird because O'Connell started the game. They took him out after 2 minutes, and then Reddish played all the rest. So why not just start Reddish?
Yeah.
Unless it was like they wanted him to say like, "How does your knee feel?" But of course he's gonna say it feels good. What do you think he's gonna say? You know,
or maybe they were just trying to play mind games with Michigan State. I don't know.
Maybe. And Reddish is not an impact player at this point in his basketball career anyways. He's not. He's a half decent 3-point shooter. He's a good sized body, decent defender. He's not a star. And that's just the way it is.
So, you started to talk about other games.
Well, Purdue gave us a crazy ride on
the last two
first
Purdue
game
games,
and the second game. They were incredible.
This weekend Purdue had 2 games that were amazing, and I'm upset that they're eliminated because I want to see another Purdue game.
I mean, their star, what is his name? Carson Edwards. He's fantastic. First of all,
that guy could not miss a shot.
He's fantastic, and not just him.
I don't know how they lost.
They had this guy, Ryan Klein. I don't know if you saw the game before against Tennessee. That guy, Ryan Klein, he was hitting threes like crazy. And his release is crazy weird. His shot and everything. They don't look like they're going in at all. And everything he put up kept going in.
Those two games, the Purdue game against Tennessee and the Purdue game against Virginia, both of them went into overtime. Yeah. I came home last night after the game had already ended, the Purdue Virginia game.
Yeah.
So I knew the final score.
But you didn't know how it got
I didn't know how it happened. So I watched the entire second half. And as I'm watching it, I know the score. And I see, okay, Purdue, they have a 3-point lead with 17 seconds left in regulation. I'm like, wait a minute. Did I look at the right final score? How does Purdue lose this game? They have a 3-point lead with 17 seconds to go. And somehow Virginia ties it up. And then they go into overtime.
Well, did you see the shot that they tied it up on? Okay, it's like their center, I can't pronounce his name, Diakite. He's got like blonde hair. He's a tall guy.
Yeah. He looks like Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, he looks like Dennis Rodman, exactly. So like it was like a broken play. The ball just came to him and he took like a mid-rangey sort of shot and it went in. That guy, he could have that shot 20 times and he will not hit that same shot if you give him 20 more attempts at that shot. He just will not. But that's the beauty of March Madness, because in that moment, he hit the shot. Yeah. And then it sent it to overtime, and then they never looked back. Actually, the overtime wasn't really that close.
No, but then the other thing that happened, so I was actually, for the first time ever, considering wagering on that game.
Really?
Yes, because Virginia was favored by 4.5, and I thought, first of all, they might not even win, but they're certainly not going to cover, right? Because Virginia's been struggling all tournament long.
It's a good thing you didn't bet.
So I was going to bet, and then I didn't. And then I'm watching the game last night, and it's overtime. So now Virginia had a 3-point lead with less than 2 seconds left in overtime. Yeah. So I'm thinking, and I know the final score. I'm like, how do they win this game by 5? There's only 1.2 seconds left. Sure enough, they get fouled, and he hits both free throws, and they win by 5. Someone who who picked Purdue is so pissed off.
They got screwed. As you said, who calls it? It's a bad beat right there.
Yes.
That
Scott
was a bad
Van Pelt.
Beat. Yeah, Scott, that was a bad beat. I mean, that's one of these moments that like the average person watching the game has no clue.
Right.
But all the people that have big money on the game are screaming at their TVs.
Right.
Screaming at their TVs.
Right.
Maybe doing worse. Maybe throwing their TVs.
And I was screaming at my TV, even though I had already known what the final score was. And I didn't bet on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, Purdue gave us a couple of great games.
I wish they were still in it.
Virginia's still a very solid team. I mean...
but they've been lucky. They've been lucky almost every game they've played so far.
But, I mean, the Duke haters are going to say that Duke was lucky for the first 2 games. And
I know, but Duke's out now. Duke's out now, so whatever. I don't know which team is going to win it all. I really
Auburn
don't.
played today just on heart alone because their star player, one of their star players, got injured, and somehow they managed to beat Kentucky. They just willed themselves to the win, and their luck's going to run out against Virginia.
I have a confession to make about the Auburn game.
Yeah,
I was watching the whole game.
Yeah,
and then in the overtime, I fell asleep on my couch.
I was like not paying that much attention to it, to be honest. I was like in and out. I didn't watch the whole game, and I just tuned in for the overtime. They just made shots. And what did I text you like 2 weeks ago or a week ago after the first round? Every single team in this tournament has guys that could hit threes. Mm-hmm. Every single one, except Duke. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Duke, like when Barrett put up a three, he hit one like in under 2 minutes.
Yeah, I remember.
I was not happy that he shot it, and then of course it went in. I was like, oh, that's great. But I mean, those shots don't go in.
And Barrett and Williamson hit a three also.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are 30% from three. That's what they are. But if you're a really good 3-point shooter, you're hitting 40% or more in college, right? Mm-hmm. And every team has guys that hit at that rate, you know? So like it doesn't surprise me that teams are able to hit their shots, you know? So anyways, I just don't think Auburn's going to beat Virginia. I think Virginia's tested. They're too tough. Their defense is going to be too good, and Auburn's not going to have any answer to it. And Michigan State, Texas Tech, I mean, it could go either way. Michigan State's tough because they're physical. They play good team basketball. But I like Texas Tech. Their defense is unreal. It's unreal.
March Madness Bracket Challenge.
Can you give us a pool update?
Well, the pool was over as soon as I was winning for like a good since the end of last round all the way up to like most of this round. I've been in first place for a good stretch. Mm-hmm. And Neil was in second. And at this point, I looked at the standings and I was like, well, it's all going to come down to Texas Tech. If Purdue won, because I had Purdue going to the Final Four, right? So if Purdue would have made it won their game against Virginia, and Texas Tech would have lost to Gonzaga. Who did they lose to? Gonzaga? Yeah, Gonzaga. Then I would have won. Like that's the whole pool, because the whole pool came down to either Texas Tech and Purdue, and Texas Tech won their game, Purdue didn't, and that as soon as Texas Tech won, it was over. Neil won. That was it. And it's like that because almost every single person in the pool picked Duke. Like the vast majority of the people picked Duke, and then so many people also had Gonzaga in their Final Four who are out, or North Carolina in the Final Four who are out. So like teams just can't pick up points, anymore. Like and everyone has Duke winning. So like it kind of was a really boring bracket challenge if you ask me, just because everybody had the same winner. So it really came down to like really specific games to decide the winner, right?
So I texted this to you, but the problem with our pool, and I don't know why it's taken me all these years to realize this, is there's not enough points given out in the later rounds.
Yeah.
So yes, you get 6 if for the championship game you get 6 multiplied by the seed, but usually the seed of the team that's playing in the championship game is not a high number. It's like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4. So you can't
make that many points, right? You can't make up that many points.
Next year, I think I'm going to change the point allotment, and instead of being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as the rounds go on, I might make it like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 or something like that.
We'll have to research it. We should try to look at what some other pools are doing to make it more fair.
I've done that. I've done that, actually.
Yeah. The reason why you didn't notice it till this year is what I just said, is that so many people had Duke. In other years, there was all kinds of permutations and combinations where other people could have made up points and won because people had different champions, people had different teams in the championship game, people had different Final Fours. Not this year. Everybody had pretty much the same thing. So if you had an early round upset in your favor or a team that won 2 games, like I had Oregon winning 2 games, and they were a 12 seed. That gave me tons of points. That's why I'm in second, and that's why I'm just that many points ahead of other people that pretty much had the same picks as me. Right?
You buried the lead, by the way, because the person in third place is your daughter, who's never watched a college basketball game in her life.
Unbelievable.
And so I'm not sure how she's in third place. Like I'm looking at her picks. Like she only has one of the. No, actually, she has none of the Final Four teams. I don't think.
Right. I think you're right. I think she has none.
And yet somehow she's in third place.
Well, I mean, she'll go down actually, some people will. That's the whole thing. People are not going to advance past her because everyone has the same picks. The score is going to stay pretty much the same now. Only Neil's going to get points.
Nothing's going to change. She's going to probably finish in third place.
Yeah.
So the other interesting thing is that the top 3 finishers in the pool this year all live in Montreal. Last year, the top 2 finishers both lived and still live in Toronto. So I don't have to hand out any prizes this year.
No, I'll have to hand out the prize to Neil.
Yes.
And maybe I'll give my second place. Oh, there's no second place prize. Or maybe we did do a second place prize.
Last year there was.
Yeah, second place prize. Maybe I'll give it to Selena.
Well, last year there was, maybe because they finished tied. Maybe that's why there were 2 prizes.
Yeah, no, but I bought the prizes before we knew the result last year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a couple of notes about March Madness before we change the subject.
Well, no, I'm not changing the subject. I just have to say, what do these people all have in common?
Let's hear it.
Your daughter,
Yeah.
your son,
Mm-hmm.
and your wife,
Mm-hmm.
Costa Canellis,
Mm-hmm.
Sean Button,
Yeah.
Michael Bukovetsky.
Yeah.
What do they all have in common?
They're beautiful people.
I wasn't going to say that.
What do they have in common?
They all finished ahead of me in the pool.
I love it. But a lot of people finished ahead of you, no? Or
27 people to be precise, yes. 28 actually finished ahead of me.
Okay, I'm going to give you some random notes, things that happened during this weekend of March Madness, the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 games, right? This is no particular order, just things that I wrote down on notes because I said I got to talk about this.
Okay.
The coach of Virginia Tech, Buzz Williams.
Oh my God, I want to strangle that guy.
He was standing on the floor all the time.
The entire first half of the game, he was on the floor, like in bounds, not out of bounds. And you notice in the second half, when his team was on that side of the court, he wasn't on the floor anymore.
It's so funny because, like, there's a line there. There's a painted black line where you're allowed to stand, and he knows he's standing on the court, and he still does it anyways. And the refs just let him do it. Because, okay, he only has 1 foot over the line. But for crying out loud, just stand 1 step back. What does it matter?
Actually,
Your guys are still going to hear you.
I think he had both feet over the line, and the ref can give a technical for that, but didn't.
The ref should have warned him, at least warned him.
At least, yes.
Yeah. Okay, the other thing is the announcers. There was some good announcing. I like all the guys. I like Grant Hill. I like Chris Webber in the early rounds. Raftery's great. But Kevin Harlan, he's so good. He's so good on the play-by-play. It's unreal. He's fantastic.
He's like the not the replacement, but remember Gus Johnson used to be great.
Yeah.
So now Kevin Harlan is like sort of the new Gus Johnson. Is it Johnson or Johnston? I don't know.
Johnson, I think.
Yes.
So my wife actually was watching the Purdue-Tennessee game with me, and she was getting into it. And so you saw that Carson Edwards got fouled with like 2 seconds left on the clock, 1 second left on the clock, shooting a 3. So he got to shoot 3 free throws.
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay. They're down by 2. He takes a 3 from the
Hold
corner.
on,
They foul him.
Is this the Tennessee Purdue game you're talking about?
Yes, Tennessee Purdue.
Yeah,
Okay.
I remember. Yes.
So Tennessee Purdue. Carson Edwards, he takes a 3 from the corner with like 1 second left.
Yeah.
They're down by 2. He gets fouled. He gets to shoot 3 free throws.
Yes, I remember.
So very quickly they get to the line. He kind of shoots that first free throw without anybody paying attention, and he misses.
I was paying attention.
I mean, I know. But like, so now he needs to hit both just to force a tie, to force overtime.
Right.
You see the stress on his face? Like, all the pressure of the entire season is on his shoulder for the 2 free throws. My wife is like feeling for him, you know? Her motherly instincts are like kicking in, and she's like feeling for this college kid. And she just says, "This is a nightmare." She says, "This is a nightmare." Like the pressure that's on him, you know, it was unbelievable. Now let me tell you something else that my wife said that was really funny, because the next game started, right? Michigan versus Texas Tech, right? Michigan comes out with their pink shoes, right? You saw those.
Yeah,
a lot of the guys are wearing pink shoes.
Yeah.
This is exactly what my wife said. She's like, "This whole game is wrong." I'm like, "What do you mean?" "What do you mean?" She goes, "They're wearing yellow jerseys and pink shoes, and the other team is wearing red. I cannot watch this game."
I actually agree with your wife on this one. Like, you should have to wear something that matches your uniform.
Yeah.
Especially now, I get why players wear pink shoes, but if you have players on both teams wearing pink shoes, sometimes you're looking down and you're not paying attention, and you think, "Oh, he must be on my team because he's wearing the same color." Like, I don't know how they allow that.
Now, can I give a shout out to the real MVP of the television broadcast from this weekend?
Okay, but I'm nervous about this.
Randy Watkins, man of delivery.
Oh, okay. I will second that.
Those Uber Eats commercials are good.
My favorite one of those is where he's going to a Sweet 16 party and he thinks it's a March Madness Sweet 16 party.
It's great.
And he gets there and it's like some girl's Sweet 16 and there's 4 people there.
It's funny because he's holding all the sandwiches and he's like, these people order big. This is going to be a big party. These people order big.
Yeah, there's going to be big like screen TVs.
Yeah.
And the other good one is the one some guy orders sushi. He's like, I don't know who ordered this, but this guy knows exactly what he's doing because the way he ordered his sushi is unbelievable.
I just like the commercials, and then you know what? There's the one commercial where he says his slogan. Now I had to write it down because it's like a bit of a tongue twister for the mind, right? He says, "I take putting the food on your plate off your plate by putting food on your plate."
Wow,
now try to digest that.
That's deep.
I take the putting food on your plate off your plate by putting food on your plate. Randy Watkins, man of delivery.
That's deep, right?
Yeah.
That's Inception, baby.
That's awesome. Yes, those are good commercials. I also I don't think you like them as much. I think it's the, is it the AT&T commercials where they have this color commentator? Why don't you tell us a little bit about when you were a player? And then he talks, I'm a married man. I don't think it's appropriate.
They're okay.
And then he says, no, when you were a basketball player.
Right.
Yes.
What about orange vanilla Coke? Are you going to be trying to find that anytime soon?
If it was just vanilla Coke, then I would. But orange vanilla Coke, no. And I don't think you can get it in Canada anyway.
No. It was only the orange vanilla Coke commercials were only on the American broadcast.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for March Madness. I mean, it's like a bit of a weird, wacky summary. And look, can I just talk about Duke for one more second?
Yeah, of course.
We followed Duke from the preseason. Like we always do,
yeah.
But this year even more.
Yeah.
I didn't care about last year's team. I'd had no attachment to them, right? And actually, one thing that I noticed in the game today and in the tournament, this edition of Duke knew how to play defense. Defense was their biggest strength, right? Remember last year with Bagley and Wendell Carter Jr. and who else did they have? Gary Trent Jr., right? Like their defense was so bad, Coach K had to switch to his own. Right, because they couldn't play man to man. This team was dynamite defensively, and because of the preseason games in Canada, which you went to all 3, I went to just the one here in Montreal. You went to the press conferences. You were sitting in the press with your press pass, interviewing Coach K and the players in their locker room. I mean, what a wild ride, right? Like
it was just crazy. There's
just
not going to
awesome.
ever be another Duke season like this one
for you, especially with like how much you got to actually know the players. And we'll see where things go in college basketball because there's only one more year of one and done, right? The NBA is going to loosen the rules, and
they keep threatening they're going to change that rule. But meanwhile, I don't know if you heard what Coach K said over the weekend. He's like, you know what? The NCAA is not ready for this rule to be abolished. They have a lot of work to do, and he's not optimistic.
No, well, because players have already committed, right? So. I mean, at any time when they're going to change the rule and make it so that you can go into the NBA at 18, the college basketball is going to be, at least for 1 or 2 seasons, is going to be all out of whack, right? Because players are committing to schools and then they may uncommit because they're like, no, I'm going right to the NBA now, right? Like, what if they would have changed the rule last year? Zion would be like, sorry, Duke, I'm going to the NBA.
Probably, yeah.
Or maybe not. I don't know because, in preseason, he wasn't this consensus #1 pick like he is now. Right.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but
but I would like it to change because I prefer like having guys. I prefer like building the team. You get to know them. Maybe.
What was the rule 20 years ago then? What was it? Like, how come players were staying 4 years 20 years ago?
I don't know when it exactly changed, but yeah, you're right. I don't know. I think there was no specific rule. Like now, it used to be you can come to the NBA at any time.
Right.
So if you didn't want to go to college, you just didn't go. You went right to the NBA. Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett.
There were 4 guys maybe that did that.
No, there's a lot more because there's some that were busts too. Kwame Brown. Like you can't even remember all the names. But you're right. There wasn't a lot, right? There wasn't a lot. And then I think the lure of the money, and then it started to change, right? Because then guys would stay in college for 3 years and they wouldn't go, like Shaq only went to LSU for 2 years, right? And then he went to the NBA. Or guys would stay for 3 years in college and then they would go. But now I think the NBA sort of embraced, as soon as guys had success going right from high school to the NBA, then players were like, well, I'm just going to go 1 year in college because that's what I have to do, right? Like they don't want to go. They don't want to go to college. They want to go straight to the NBA to make money.
So if they go back to the way it was, then
I don't know.
Then if you want to go straight to the NBA, then you're going to go. That's fine. And then to me, that means anyone else who doesn't go straight to the NBA, then that person probably wants to be in school for more than just 1 year. Otherwise they would just go to the NBA. So then you should be able to assume that the player you're getting is going to be there for like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 years.
I would like it even if guys stayed for 2 years, you know?
Anyway.
You know, like it used to be. Think about the first great Duke teams. I'm not talking about Johnny Dawkins. I'm talking about like
Leitner was there 4 years. Okay. Hill was there 4 years. Hurley was there 4 years.
I know, but like Leitner was there for 4 years. But like the first year he was there, they went to the Final Four. He was just a freshman, right? Mm-hmm. I don't remember who they lost to. It's when they had Danny Ferry, right?
Yeah.
Danny Ferry was a star. Leitner was just a nobody. Like he was starting, but he was a freshman. And they lost in the Final Four. I think maybe it was Indiana. I can't remember. But then the year after that, Hurley burst onto the scene, and he started as a freshman because he was good enough, and Leitner was better, and then they didn't even have Grant Hill yet. They had other guys. Remember Robert Brickey and David Henderson. Remember these guys, Ala Abdel Nabi, right? And they got their asses handed to them by UNLV in the championship game. Yeah. I don't remember what the score was. They lost by 30 in the championship game, something like this.
Yes.
But then what do you do when you get knocked down? As that stupid song says, when you get knocked down, you get back up again, right? So the same group of core players, you know, the same core of the team. They weren't all there the next year. Some graduated and some new guys came. But, you know, Leitner, Hurley, Brian Davis, right? The core of the team stayed together and they went next year.
Did you mention Thomas Hill?
Thomas Hill, exactly. The core of the team, like they basically committed to themselves, this year it's going to be different, and they made it, and they did it, right? Because sometimes you need to lose big, you need to lose to figure out how to win. Right. And with the one and dones, they lose and they go to the NBA, so they don't figure out how to win. You know, like it's frustrating. You know.
Can I tell you something that bugged me? Speaking of the tournament,
things that bug me.
Let's hear it.
And it's not just the tournament. I think I saw this stat every time I watched the Duke game. There'd be like a stat at the bottom of the screen. And it would be like, let's say it was, you know, halfway through the second half and Duke had scored, 50 points. And the stat would come up, 45 of the 50 points scored by freshmen. Well, obviously, because everyone that plays is a freshman. Like, why do you even put that stat up there?
The whole starting five, right? It's like, it's ridiculous.
Well, 4 of the 5, but
4, I know. And then usually the center does not scoring a lot, although Delorier had a good game today. But yeah. All the points are scored by freshmen. It's like it doesn't make any difference anymore. And the records, you know, they showed Zion Williamson scored the most points in the first 2 games of the tournament as a freshman. He broke someone's record. I forget who. But like, no kidding. That record's going to keep getting broken, you know?
All right. We got to talk about something else.
We've been talking for college basketball for half an hour.
That's too long. We should just end this episode.
If you just want to do college basketball here, I'm fine with just college basketball. I mean, we'll just end it with that.
Well, I have a few quick notes.
I'd like to talk a little bit of NHL. Do you want to talk NHL for 5 minutes?
Sure.
The National Hockey League.
Okay, I mean, the playoff races are coming down to the end of the wire. Mm-hmm. Canadians have 3 games left. Mm-hmm. Carolina has 4 left, and Columbus also 4.
Well, Columbus won today, so they only have 3 left.
Yeah, Columbus won today. Today were the games in hand on the Canadians.
Yes.
So Columbus won their game, and but Carolina lost. So the Canadians are really still on the outside looking in. They're going to need help. It's still not over, but it's certainly not like looking
bleak.
great.
It's very bleak.
But you know, one thing that came up this week a lot, and you've talked about it forever, it's the format of the playoffs. Because the Canadians have 92 points, right?
Okay.
That's That's only 2 points less than the Winnipeg Jets, who were in first place in the Central.
I didn't even know that.
Right? That's 2 points less. Not the Canadians are not in a wild card in the West. They're in a playoff spot.
Right.
You know,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So and that's just from the Canadians' point of view. You know, when if you're any of the teams in the Atlantic Division, like Boston or Toronto, you have more points than basically anybody in the West except for Calgary, you know? So, and then you're going to end up playing each other, you know, like one of Boston or Toronto. And we all know it's going to probably be Toronto because they can't beat the Bruins, but like one of those teams is going to be out in the first round, and it's kind of sucks because they're strong teams, you know?
Yeah. Well, listen, apparently there is somebody, and more than one person in the NHL Board of Governors or a bunch of the NHL owners who like the format the way it is, because if they didn't, they would change it. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know who those people are that like it, and I would love to ask them what it is about it that they like.
Yeah,
but I don't know. What can you do?
You don't listen anymore to the 31 Thoughts podcast?
I never did, actually, not once.
Oh, you know, with Elliot Friedman, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a good hockey podcast that they often have guests, which I just kind of fast forward, but the rest of the discussion is quite interesting. So, you know, like 2 years ago, we had David Alter on our hockey preview, and he told us like what he really wants to see is like the first place teams in each conference get to pick their opponent. They shouldn't automatically be matched up with that last wild card. They should get to choose who they want to play.
Right.
So
there's a league in the States that does this.
Yeah. Elliot Friedman talked about this on the podcast, on the 31 Thoughts podcast.
Really?
And apparently it's getting a little bit of traction to such a point that a reporter, and they played the clip, a reporter asked Gary Bettman about it.
Oh, Gary Bettman.
And of course, Bettman knows about it. And the reporter basically said, what do you think about this proposal to, you know, have the team pick their playoff opponent? And he was like, let me get something straight, Bettman said. Let me just clear something up. There is no proposal. This is just an idea that someone in some fan or media person dreamed up. But like, there's no proposal. So like you said, there's no will to change it because I guess they feel it's working. It's going to take like the powerful owners, like teams are going to get screwed by this current system, and it'll be up to those owners to kind of the owners of the teams that are getting the raw end of the deal to kind of instigate the change, I guess.
Well, if somehow Tampa loses in the first round this year, then someone's going to be pissed off about it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not going to make a change to the playoff format, isn't it?
It might, because they're going to have to play a better team than what they would normally have to play in the first round.
They should play the 16th best team.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I hear you. And they're not going to play the 16th best team because the 16th best team is probably like the Colorado Avalanche. It's not whoever the wild card is, and especially the Colorado Avalanche. Imagine if Tampa could pick their opponent. Of course they'd pick Colorado. Colorado's completely injured, and somehow they're hanging on.
Well, some of their injured players are coming back, actually.
I know, but you know what I mean.
So one more hockey note. You know, I'm not a fan of Andrew Shaw. I've mentioned it several times on this podcast.
Yeah,
and
but you're a bit unfair to him because he had a different season this year than he's typically had.
I don't think he did, because I've seen a lot of plays that, you know, he's taken penalties when he shouldn't have. And just last week, he didn't get suspended, but he probably should have gotten suspended for the elbow that he put to someone's head. I forget who the player was.
He's going to play how he's going to play, Josh. Every team has goons like Andrew Shaw that play.
I don't like any of the goons on any of the teams.
But what I'm saying, why you're being unfair to him, is that he has 18 goals and 26 assists in 60 games. He's been a productive player. He's not just going out there taking penalties and whacking people over the head.
What's his name? Tom Wilson on the Capitals also scores goals and gets assists. I don't like him either.
I know, but he's even more extreme because he's like more of a goon because he's actually gotten suspended a bunch of times, right?
Shaw's been suspended sometimes.
He has,
not as
but
much.
If Shaw's over the line, Wilson is like 6 feet over the line, you know?
My point being, if Shaw wasn't on the team anymore next year, I would not be upset about it at all.
No, I think he's a valuable player for them.
I don't think so. I think he's way overrated. They have him playing on like the second line. He's a third or fourth line guy at best.
Well, that's just because he mixes up the lines and he tries to balance it out. There's no first line. There's no second line. It is what it is.
Anyway, whatever.
That's it. Andrew Shaw. You just don't like this guy.
I don't. I don't like him. I don't like the way he plays. You shouldn't. You should not. His MO is to injure players. I don't like it.
Okay, fair enough.
That should not be your MO.
Right. Okay. Before we sign off, remember you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and of course, Spotify. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. As always, you can get all the links to everything I just talked about on our website, skipandjosh.com.
We leave you with this.
Did you hear about this guy in St. Louis who sliced bagels the wrong way? Did you hear this story?
Oh my God. Yes, I saw it on Twitter. It caused such a... There was a whole St. Louis style on Twitter. Like, everything. Like, so the guy sliced his bagels, like, the other way, right? To make, like, I don't even know how to explain it. I'll have to post a picture of it.
You have to see it, yeah.
And so then on Twitter, there was like, hey, today I had my milk and cookies St. Louis style. And they show a picture of a guy pouring milk into a cookie box.
Yes.
Today I had my this St. Louis style. And it was just like, it was so stupid, don't you think?
Well, yeah, all that stuff was whatever. But I'm talking about the guy who sliced the bagels.
Yeah.
What possesses you to slice a bagel that way?
It's because this is what I really wanted to say, but there was so much stuff on Twitter, it's just going to get lost. No one's going to read it. Those are not good bagels that he sliced anyways. That's right. Those are just bread in bagel shape.
Right. There's really almost no hole in those bagels.
Exactly.
If you were to take a Montreal bagel and do it that way, it would just break.
Even a New York bagel, which tend to be really huge, you know, like those bagels are just those bagels are no good. That was the first thing. So maybe that's why he had to slice them that way. That's the only way they can get them to taste good. I don't know.
Maybe. Anyway.
So staying with food.
Okay.
Have you ever eaten at In-N-Out Burger? I know you have.
I think I did once.
In Las Vegas?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So In-N-Out is being sued. In-N-Out is suing the shoe brand Puma. Did you hear about this?
No.
So Puma came out with these shoes that are exactly the colors of In-N-Out. They're white shoes with red stripes and yellow fringe. And they even have the classic In-N-Out like a palm tree on it. And the name of the shoe is called the drive-thru. So the shoes look literally like they're made by In-N-Out, but they're not. So actually In-N-Out Burger is suing them over these shoes because they say they're using their colors and their likeness. So it should be an interesting lawsuit. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was funny.
You see, I mean, if it was just the same colors as In-N-Out, I would understand. But if they're calling the shoe the drive-thru, they're like asking to be sued.
That's exactly what I said, because just looking at them, if you go to court with it, you're like, well, no, it's the same colors. Too bad, right? But when you call it the drive-thru, I mean, come on, right?
I don't know why they would do that.
Just, people are stupid.
Okay, so I guess, I don't know if you have anything else, but I want to end the show with one other note.
Yeah, sure. I don't have anything.
And again, we should have started the show with this. It was huge news. I'm sure you heard about it. But apparently, I don't know if it was 10, 20, 30 years ago, Mel B and Jerry Halliwell had sex with each other, and this should have been the top story on our show.
Okay, first of all, I'm shocked that you even mentioned this. I just read about this 2 days ago, and it is huge news. Now, there's any story about the Spice Girls that involves me and you could only lead to one story. Right? So, I don't even know if we should tell it, whatever. But, like, I was watching, like, I recorded the Brit Awards or something. This is when we were living together.
Yeah.
And this is back in the day where you had to record on a video cassette, right? So I'm recording the Brit Awards, and I came home from work and I started watching them. And then literally, you came in, and at the exact moment when Jerry Halliwell was wearing, like, the Union Jack dress that's really famous, you took one look at it, and you were holding a brown lunch bag in your hand. You took one look at it, you were transfixed to the screen, and then you just dropped your lunch bag.
And I think I said, "Oh my God."
Yeah, like it was. I mean, she was stunning in that dress. So yeah, Mel B and Jerry. Well, whatever.
So
We're not going to judge.
Anyway, no. Listen, whatever. They're allowed to do whatever they want to do.
But do you think it's kind of weird, right? Like the timing of this is like the Spice Girls reunion. It's like they're just trying to create hype, don't you think?
Of course.
I mean, I believe it's true.
Well,
I believe it's true, but I mean, like, it's not a coincidence that it's coming out now.
But it's working because
Of course.
they created a lot of hype.
I would go see the Spice
Are
Girls.
they going to be playing in Montreal?
I think the tour is just in Europe or mostly in England.
Okay. Well, road trip.
Road trip. All right, so I'll speak to you next time. Next time,
Yeah.
I don't know when we'll record next time, but we may have a champion of the NCAA basketball by the time we record next time.
Possibly.
Possibly. That game always screws us up because it's on a Monday night, and then we can't record, and and then it's too late, and then we have to record Tuesday. It's not good.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Not good. But anyways, great talking to you, Josh. Keep the faith for Duke. It was a fun season. I know it was a tough loss, but it was a fun season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You too.
All right, talk to you next time.
Okay. Bye.